everyone, welcome to Granny Tales. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Tonight we're going to read the last one in the Little Tales for Little Folks, and it's called The Enormous Turnip. It was springtime in the valley, and the farmer knew that the time was right to plant his seeds. "What shall we plant in our field this year, my dear?" he called to his wife in the farmyard. "Let me see," said the farmer's wife. "Last year we planted beans, the year before it was corn, and before that we grew carrots." Just at that moment, their children came tumbling out of the barn. "Let's plant turnips this time," they shouted, and so they did. The sun had just come out after a shower of rain, which made the soil warm and damp, just right for the turnip seeds. Straight away, the whole family set to work. First, the farmer harnessed up his horse and ploughed the ground. Next, the farmer's wife and all the children raked the soil until it was level. All the lumps were gone and it was soft and fine, just right for turnip seeds. The farmer and his family worked very hard, and in the next to no time every row was planted. Carefully they covered up the seeds and made quite sure not a single one was showing, as birds have very sharp eyes and love to gobble up turnip seeds. Before they went back to the farmhouse, the children made a scarecrow, just to make quite sure the birds wouldn't fly down and steal the freshly sown seeds. The warm spring days soon passed, and by the end of the hot summer, the little seeds had grown into large, round turnips. One day as the farmer walked across the field, he spotted one turnip twice the size, as big as the rest. That's this one. Look at it. The next day when he crossed the field again, it was even bigger. The farmer looked puzzled. "I must be dreaming," he said to his dog. "I'm sure that turnip is growing bigger every minute." When the farmer's wife went into the field to look, the turnip had grown even more. It was almost as high as the scarecrow. During the night, the turnip grew bigger and bigger. But next morning, the children could see it from the farmhouse windows. "Look at our enormous turnip," they yelled in delight. "Time we pulled it up," the farmer told his wife at breakfast. "How on earth are we going to do that?" gasped the woman, looking worried. "If everybody lends a hand, it will be easy," said the farmer, and went off to fetch a long rope from the barn. The children thought this would be great fun and happily went along to the field to help. Carefully the farmer wound the rope around the enormous turnip and tied a tight knot at the front. Then he wrapped the end of the rope around the middle and pulled and he pulled and he pulled, but the enormous turnip never moved. The farmer's wife stepped forward to help. She held on tight to the farmer, and together they both pulled and pulled and pulled. Still the enormous turnip did not move. One by one the children joined in until the whole family was pulling and tugging on the rope with all their might. "All together now, 1, 2, 3, pull!" yelled the farmer, and pull they did. They pulled so hard they all fell over laughing and squealing, and still the enormous turnip stayed right where it was. By this time some of the neighbours heard the noise and offered to help. Soon everyone was pulling on the rope just like a tug-of-war team. Still the enormous turnip never moved. "Well, I never," sighed the farmer, shaking his head, and off he went to harness his horse. So there they all were, heaving and pulling, the horse, the neighbours, the children, the farmer's wife, the farmer. But it was no good. Nothing could move that enormous turnip. The animals in the farmyard noticed the horse being led into the turnip field, so they all followed because they wanted to help. So here we have the cat, the dog, the sheep, the goat, the cow, the horse, the neighbours, the children, the farmer's wife and the farmer, all trying to pull that enormous turnip. Just then a tiny field mouse scurrying by. When he spied the end of the rope, he stopped and gave a little tug. Much to everyone's surprise, the enormous turnip popped right out of the ground. It rolled across the field and came to rest in the farmyard. "Well, I'll be blowed," chuckled the farmer. "You're the strongest mouse I've ever met." After a while, when they'd all calmed down, the farmer's wife took a picture. "Smile, please," she said. But everyone was not smiling. It was the farmer who looked rather worried. "What on earth are we going to do with this enormous turnip now that we have pulled it out?" he said. "Take it to market, of course," cried the children. But that was easier said than done. First they tried to load it onto the wheelbarrow, but it was far too big. Then they tried to load it onto the farmer's old truck, but the enormous turnip was too heavy and all the tyres burst. So the farmer harnessed up his horse, and together everyone pushed and pulled the enormous turnip all the way to the market, and the tiny field mouse came along to lend a hand as well. The folks at the market were amazed when they saw the enormous turnip, and they all rushed to buy some. There's plenty for everyone, called the farmer as he watched the enormous turnip being cut up into pieces. At the market that day, people bought nothing but turnip. So they've got turnip soup, turnip pie, turnip with custard, iced turnip. Yeek. And when it was time to go home, every bit of the enormous turnip had been sold. So the farmer harnessed up his horse and they all headed home. The sun was going down, so they reached the farmhouse, and the farmer asked his wife, "What shall we plant in the field next year?" The farmer's wife turned to him and said, "Carrots, beans, barley, sweet corn, anything but turnips." Hope you enjoyed that one. Night.